So following up with my Powerhouse Tempest build, I have done some more testing with said Tempest build, and I have
dramatic.
Is he all right?
Pause!
Found a PvP method that is excellent for newer players in Guild Wars 2 PvP, offers a lot of room for error, and can put out some pretty decent damage, like legit. 45% increased outgoing damage, perma protection, nearly 60% reduction to strike damage. I mean, it can have an instant revive, massive damage, I mean, all the works. So let's talk about the Battle Tank Tempest. Okay, so first with the weapon, of course, we run the hammer. I'm a big fan of the hammer just because I feel like it's a well-balanced kit. This is also because of their circulars, mainly their hammer 3 abilities. Not only do they provide increasing outgoing damage, but they also provide a flat 7% damage reduction to strike, as well as 10% reduction to incoming condition damage. So literally making you significantly tougher to bring down. Then of course with the hammer abilities providing some wicked damage, some really good crowd control, and of course some fantastic healing. This is just a no-brainer in my mind. Your skills are going to exactly mesh with the signets, like nearly all of your skills are signets. The signet passive effects, which are what we're truly after, offer some really good defensives and basically everything that you will need. And this also pairs down with the trait line, which I'll discuss here in a minute. We run Signet of Restoration, Signet of Water, Signet of Air, Signet of Earth, and then Rebound. The signets are providing us with all the defensives that we need passively, and then their active effects can be utilized in some pretty creative ways. Signet of Water can help revive allies in an area. Signet of Earth can immobilize enemies at a crazy long distance, allowing you to close the gap and follow up with either some crowd control or another immobilize. And of course, Signet of Air is your stun break, not only pairing that with the movement speed increase that you can get. Rebound, of course, is meant to be to save your allies or yourself from dying. Albeit the healing from this is kind of low, but because you are of course running more of a power damage oriented build, however, it still does provide some healing and can bring you back from the brink. If you want an alternative, I would honestly just even suggest doing the elemental, the greater elemental. That could provide some, we'll say some backup while you were dancing around and provide some pressure depending on which one you use. So let's go ahead and talk about the traits. The trait lines we run are Earth, Fire, and Tempest. Earth, we run 3-3-2. This guarantees protection from every single aura we generate. We can reduce our amounts of slows, cripples, and immobilizing effects that are put onto us, as well as regenerating some of our endurance, allowing us to dodge roll more often. And then, of course, the Written Stone ability that provides us with auras for every single signet use, keeping the passive effects while the active effects go on cooldown. I mean, you really can't lose here. Fire, we run 3-3-2. This gives us a free condition cleanse, extra power damage when we reach a certain amount of might stacks, and then of course generating might when we use fire attunement skills that cause us to explode immediately after leaving fire attunement. Lastly, for the Tempest, we run 3-2-1. This gives us an aura when we start an overload, as well as giving us stability while we are in our overloads. This is important because our overloads take a while, so the extra crowd control blocking is important. Lastly, when we finish our overloads, we can have an increased outgoing damage by 25%, giving us some serious firepower. All right, so let's go ahead and review the gear. So for your amulet, personally, I love the Marauder's amulet. We need quite a bit of power damage for sure, but then the extra vitality just pairs so well with all the extra defensives and damage mitigations that we have. Given that so many of our damage reducing factors, such as the protection, such as the Whirling Stone, such as Signet of Water, we need a decent sized health pool here to work with so that it can actually be to our benefit. For our rune, simply I run Rune of Strength. This gives us might duration and increases our uptime of might, allowing us to pack some power. If you want a more defensive route, you can run Rune of Earth, which provides some healing, increases the duration of our protection uptime, which usually is pretty decent anyway, and then of course also provides some extra toughness to take some more damage. Our relic is Relic of the Brawler. Why? Well, when we gain protection, we get 10% increased outgoing damage. Now, every time we get an aura, we get protection. So this buff, this relic 10% increased outgoing damage is up all the time, which is really, really beneficial, especially given the amount of protection that we are generating. So likely we are able to maximize this to T. Our sigils, we like to run Sigil of Cleansing and Sigil of Compounding. This provides excellent free condition cleansing, as well as increasing outgoing damage onto the target. What's interesting to note is that the Hammer 3 abilities apply a lot of different conditions, such as weakness, chilling, things along that line, which this stacks up damage super fast. So in this 1 versus 1 type of mentality, or even when your allies are assisting, you could have anywhere between 3 to 10% increased outgoing damage onto that target just because of their conditions. Pretty cool. Okay, so the basic opener I like to run with this build is walking in with Air Attunement, starting with the Air Overload. As the Air Overload finishes, use Windstorm, Shock Blast onto the target, and Hurricane of Pain. While this is channeling, switching over to Fire Attunement, immediately hitting Hammer 3, Triple Sear, Molten End, and then Surging Flames. Depending on where you are at that start point of the fight, you can go a couple of different routes. You can go to Earth for more damage and potentially even some countering of incoming damage from the enemy, or you can go to Water if you need to heal or cleanse if they've, say for example, broke a stun and they are counterattacking. The flow of the match can drastically change, so keep this in mind. Always stay on your toes. Personally, I would say that remember the locations of all of your abilities, get that muscle memory going, and you'll have a great time. So the role of this build can be changed quite frequently. It does a lot in 1v1 duels, as well as provides some great team fight pressure and presence with, of course, the rebound ability, which can save some allies in a clutch. The hammer gives tons of damage and has built-in defenses that give you what you need to hang in there for a long period of time. Given how durable you are, many enemies will put a lot of effort into stopping you, only to realize that you are a super tanky Tempest and you have some great sustain and you can kite, and there's a lot that you can do. As you play, you will realize that you can not only provide that great damage and great pressure, but also, of course, the team support. The Water Overload is a fantastic team support. The Signet of Water can help revive allies who are down. And of course, this makes even a bigger point if you are in a match that does not have a support on your team. This doesn't mean that you are a full support, but you do have some supportive capabilities. This build is a great entry into structured PvP and can provide some great lower tier progression all the way up until about gold, where you'll hit a lot of hard hitting meta, we'll say, builds. Once getting into there, it will fall off a little bit, as I have found. Not as powerful as, say, for example, Blade Sworns and, of course, all these grenade scrappers running amok. Because of the amount of damage that they can put out, even with your reduction to strike damage, you still will go down. The best part about this build is that it provides the Tempest survivability, which allows learning and mistakes to be made, so new players can figure out ways to progress and understand not only the elementalist a little bit better, but of course understanding PvP and the progression there. So as you play, you will find out what fights are best for you and where your best position is, so keep that in mind. If you want to take this build into PvE, well, click on this video here. This is how I play the Battle Mage Tempest in PvE, so take a look. Stay caffeinated, folks.